Hello, everybody. Welcome to Pharmaceutical Soccer. I am so happy to be here with you. I hope you're enjoying this Nashville SC roller coaster as much as we are here at Pharmaceutical Soccer. Of course, I'm here with Valer Shabilla and Clay Trainum. These moods, it goes from very high to very low and now back to very high when it comes to this team's performances and everything going on. Are are you guys in the same way? Like, I feel like my just mental state is riding along with this team roller coaster that's currently happening.
Yeah. Nashville SC is so back.
Oh no, we're not doing that. Not again. Uh, yeah, the the results I feel like have been up and down. I'm just gonna stick to it. I don't think the performances have been that different. In all honesty, like it's a couple of mistakes here and there, costly mistakes, last minute goals. I mean, if Nashville doesn't concede the two last minute goals, there's a way less of an emotional roller coaster, right? Obviously, results are very much the most important thing here, and that's why it's very valid to feel like this team is somewhat inconsistent in terms of getting those results. But I don't know, man. Like, it just seems like this team is playing exactly where not where we thought they would be this season coming into the season, but where we thought they would be throughout the season as they kind of showed us what this team is, right? And I think that's kind of more of a sane way to look at things if you don't want to be in the roller coaster.
By the way, speaking of emotional roller coasters, hey Valer, how was your weekend?
Oh baby, you talk about emotional roller coaster. I felt every feeling in about 90 minutes of soccer. Um, the Arsenal Football Club won in the last minute essentially of a game. Um, Game we were losing until the 84th minute. So yeah, emotional or high. I did hug a bunch of people. It was a good time, and otherwise good weekend all around. And anytime you get to watch Arsenal beat Newcastle, a team I really have grown to hate more and more every day, it just is very nice.
I do want to say that Arsenal Newcastle is one of my all-time favorite matches to watch as a neutral, and a game that Valer definitely remembers. And I think he knows the one.
Know exactly where you're going with this.
There was a 4-4 about what was that 15 years ago, and Newcastle missed a chance for a winner right at the end, which would have been insane because Arsenal had blown a 4-0 lead. But
Yeah. We were
my feelings
down
on
four. We
Newcastle have
were up
changed.
4-0.
Yeah. But my weekend was full of volleyball and the mighty Indiana Hoosiers, America's Indiana Hoosiers, going to 5-0. And so shout out to them. But more importantly, Stephen, how was your weekend? So you don't get to shame us for not asking you.
It was really good. And I just wanted to make, first of all, I just wanted to make everybody clear. If you want to say you haven't seen Unhinged Valer like I have at any time, go to Fleet Street. Go watch an Arsenal match with Valer. If you truly want to see non-journalist Valer and you want to see unhinged Valer, that's where he lets it out nowadays. So please make sure you go check that out at Fleet Street at any given time.
I I want to give a disclaimer. If you do this, you cannot record or say or or tell people about this.
Valer's objectivity does not exist within Fleet Street.
Zero objectivity.
But
It's
my weekend was good. I spent the weekend in Detroit actually this weekend, going to see one of my favorite bands, Sleep Token, play at Little Caesars Arena. So that was really fun.
I had multiple friends that were there.
Oh, very nice. Absolutely.
And you were there.
I was there. That is true. I was there. I did not
That's
go
just letting me get
see.
away with a burn.
I did not go see. I didn't realize that Zach Bryan was also playing like the first concert ever at the Big House that weekend. Did not go to that. But yeah, it was a good weekend.
I thought you were about to say he was going to be an opener, and I was like, what a vibe change that.
But no, spent the time with old producer Angelo in Detroit, so that was a really good time, and got to hang out with family, and of course got to watch Nashville Soccer Club beat the Houston Dynamo. I got to do that with some family, of course. What a time. I mean, what a relief as well. I think a lot of us were really worried, especially with kind of the losing streak, the 6 to 7, kind of in the mix, that where was Nashville going to end up. I think some of us were worried if playoffs were actually going to happen. I think we all kind of knew that they were not going to have that big of a collapse, that there was a few matches that were going to play out for Nashville. But you never thought it was going to be in that dominant like structure that Nashville was going to do it. I think what Valer said at the beginning of the show really hits home, where hey, the performances technically have not been as bad, as the results might appear. I don't know, what was it like from the home side of things, from both y'all's perspective, being able to watch us clinch playoffs at home? Well, but they were already clinched because the Red Bulls bit the bullet, but not everybody knew that at the time.
Well, I think it's fitting that you were in Detroit talking about collapses, considering what the Tigers did.
I was hoping you wouldn't bring that up, but absolutely, yes.
But I think first off, just before we talk about the game, I do think that this might be the best sort of Hispanic Heritage Night that the club has put together.
Yes.
It felt really inclusive. It felt really important and powerful. Obviously, we know things are going on in the world, but like everyone I talked to, for the most part, was really, really happy with the way things went. And, shout out to the folks from La Brigada. Obviously, we know all of them. Like, they had a really good time. And I thought that was a really cool, important way to end the regular season for them. Obviously, there's a Miami game coming up, but Miami's its own thing. But like to have a night about them was pretty cool. And the tifo was great.
Yeah,
didn't quite fit, but the tifo was great.
I was just gonna add that the tifo was really nice, and I was told that both Gaston Brugman and Brian Acosta came in and helped with the tifo, which I think is a really, really cool thing,
cool
actually.
Move. And especially when people are needed to actually help out with the tifo, to have a couple players there to be like, yeah, we'll help out. So shout out to the back line for getting that all together as well. It could not have gone any better, I don't think. It looks super cool.
And I do think like turning it towards the actual like playing style and things like that, like you could feel the difference in the stands. This was like a game that felt, like the energy was there from the start. Honestly, things like tifo help that.
Yeah.
Because people get really excited about these big sort of overt displays. But then, of course, nothing helps a home atmosphere more than a goal in the first 70 seconds of a game.
Absolutely.
And so it was very funny, because I was talking to someone before the game, and I was just like, just feels like one of those games where if Nashville just gets an early goal, like that's just what everybody's waiting on. Everybody wants to see a chance get finished, and sure enough, that's exactly what happened. And while there were lots of worrying things in that first half, they didn't put away near enough chances. The dominance that Nashville displayed, even before the red card, getting the early goal, keeping the pressure on, all of that, it really played into creating a good atmosphere, and even a hard one for Houston to pull itself out of. Like, obviously Houston did get an equalizer, but I can't tell you how many people I talked to at halftime where I was like, I'm not worried about this. Like, Nashville's been all over them. I wasn't worried about them getting a win in that game, even at the half after Houston equalized.
Well, first of all, we got to make sure that Valer knows, he hears this, that he is correct and right about all things, that there was no rotation with the lineup at all. I know how much how much he really needs that kind of boost of confidence for the stuff that he does. So shout out to Valer for that.
I got the email. From the comms folks, and I read the lineup, and I just, every name I was like, I told you so. I told you so. With every name. I was looked at Ben, he was next to me. I was like, yeah, dude, I told you there's no rotation. It just, honestly, I knew how important it was for BJ Callahan to have a statement at home. I think this is an important match. I know it's before the sort of ultimately the most important match of the season, but
Season so far.
it seems yeah, fair enough. But I do think he wanted BJ and the players too. I think they wanted to make a statement about how good this team is, especially in front of home fans. They've been really really big about that. And what a better way to send off, right? And you can tell from the first 5 minutes, 10 minutes, Clay. I'm sorry if you said this already, but the first 5, 10 minutes, even before the red card, I mean, Nashville were running circles around Houston. It was first 2 minutes. I mean, it was just very, very direct and a very sort of confident performance from Nashville, and the crowd fed off of that. I thought the crowd, fed from what Nashville SC was giving them on the pitch, and then the players in turn kind of got more from that from the crowd. So yeah, really good display from the start there from Nashville.
Well, it was really funny. I wanted to go back and watch the highlights, like I normally do before recording the show. And Apple, instead of trying to cut in between Hani's first goal, the highlights just included the first 2 minutes of the game from kickoff without even having any sort of cuts whatsoever. They just played it through because, yes, Nashville was so much on the front foot starting the match off. But it started off with that Hani goal, which he came out. If there was one player that came out like a firecracker with the start of this match, Hani Mukhtar was absolutely on one, ready to go from the beginning. Obviously, both him and Sam on the score sheet again. We know what's going to need to happen if we're going to have any sort of run in the playoffs or winning the Open Cup, and it's going to be those two being fire.
Well, and this was a day that, like in years past, is a Hani hat trick written all over it.
Yep.
Like from the way he was, obviously he's got a couple of penalty appeals, maybe one more full throated than the other, but like he was so dominant in that game and keeping the pressure up and keeping chances coming for Nashville. Like we talked about, they didn't convert as many of those opportunities in the first half as they should have, and ultimately they were made to pay for that. But I, right before Blair came back, like I never had any worry about Nashville winning that game after the first half because, like, it is just one of those. It reminded me in some ways of that DC game a few months ago, where I'm
Open
just like, this is unsustainable for Houston. Like, it's just going to happen, and Nashville's going to score fine, and things will be fine. And then, sure enough, they scored twice to open the second half.
And I do want to talk about the after Houston's goal, which, by the way, great goal. And I know folks will probably want us to talk about forgot who clatters into Yazbek to win the ball. I could see that going either way, honestly. I think Yazbek was put in a very, very unfortunate position by an Eddie Taxeth pass. I think we got to take him back to that as well. It was a very, very softly hit pass from Eddie Taxeth that put Yazbek in that position. The Houston player gets a touch on the ball before he runs into Yazbek. So that's the only thing kind of I'm unsure about.
I will say, on the basis of the way the game was called, that had been a foul for large chunks of the game. If Nashville was on the other end of it, the foul count was 16-4 late in the game. I think it finished at 18-9. It was a confusing game. But yes,
that is the Valaire you will not get if you go to Fleet Street Pub to watch Arsenal play with Valaire specifically. If that's a foul all day long, Fleet Street. Also, I do have to say, I don't know. I think Junior Urso might be my least favorite MLS player of all time since Nashville's existence into the league. Just him.
You would have hated him even more in the stands.
Never liked him in Orlando. He celebrated that goal like he just won the MLS Cup, yet they're fighting for a playoff spot. It was a good goal. It was a good goal, but I don't know.
He was given the big one to the Nashville SC bench after the goal too. Like he was really driving it home. And that I don't know how much of that carried on TV, but you could tell in the stands.
I do want to talk about a little bit about the period right after Houston's goal, because I think it's important, and I think that might be something you'll see on Wednesday a lot, actually, which is a bunkered down team that is happy to give Nashville the ball, which, by the way, wild thing to do while down. I thought Houston would be like just a little bit more progressive in their build up play and in their sort of playing in general. But I do think some of that had to do with how Nashville pressed them and how Nashville kept them suffocated in their own area. Obviously, they were down a man, so I'm not really blaming Ben Olsen for not going for it or anything like that. But the way that I I hesitate to use the word struggle. Nashville just didn't look like they were able to break Houston's defense in that first half after Houston's first goal. And what ended up happening was this sort of horseshoe of death, right? It's like let's pass it from one side to the other, pass to the midfield, pass one side to the other, cross to no one, keeper gets the ball. Houston clears it. Nashville gets the ball again. Pass, pass, pass. I mean, Nashville had like an insane amount of possession that led to nowhere. And that changed when Nashville obviously come into the second half and scored because Houston didn't change the way they were playing. They wanted to go into the second half and do the exact same thing because, quite honestly, it was working for them. And what changed was individual brilliance from certain players, one or two players combining, or a back heel goal or something along those lines. And Nashville finally being able to break through Houston is actually a really good sign going into Wednesday because while Austin is not going to play as defensively as Houston did, down to 10 men away from home, Austin plays like that, though. That is their system. If you go watch that semifinal against Minnesota for Austin, they sat back and were happy to give Minnesota the ball, and Minnesota couldn't do anything with the ball for the most part. And I think so for Nashville, I think it's a good sign that they were able to finally break through, even though maybe those 30 minutes or so after Houston's goal were pretty frustrating, I would say, from a Nashville SC perspective, because there was just no breakthrough. It was just meaningless possession that led nowhere.
Good to see fullbacks get involved in the goals as well, including Andy Nahar scoring one of those goals. Daniel Lovitz, of course, being the assisting for one as well. Again, we talked about it a couple weeks ago. Even just having both Dan Lovitz and Andy Nahar in the field, it makes such a difference in the way that Nashville progresses. Most of those chances, that Honey and Sam did have were coming specifically from the fullbacks' involvement in the squad.
And I think that this is something that goes hand in hand with Tag Seth being in the midfield. I think that when you've got a Brugman that's playing in the midfield, you're going to see a little bit more effective passing upfield in terms of like creating chances and things like that. That's not something that Tag Seth has necessarily been good at. I think that this was a topic of conversation on the Discord earlier today, but like there's a lot of good things that Eddie Tagset does. The part of his game that needs a lot of work is on the passing end and keeping the pressure up and generating chances. And I think that when you have a Yazbek and Tagset in midfield, getting those contributions from both fullbacks is something that's very, very helpful to the way that Nashville plays and being a little bit less predictable going forward and finding more and more chances. Now, it is worth keeping in mind, obviously, this is a 10-man Houston side for most of the game, but I think you'll find that a lot of teams do tend to struggle when you get a defensive-minded team that's down to 10 men. I think that that's something that, we've seen umpteen number of times with Nashville, but like going a man up doesn't necessarily always result in just being a dominant in terms of generating chances. So I do think that those sorts of things kind of go hand in hand, that Lovitz ends up being a little bit more involved in why so many of his goal contributions happened up earlier in the season when it was a pretty much locked into in the midfield for Tagseth and Yazbek.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, anything more to talk about with it? I mean, it was just dominance. You know what I mean? Like this match was just even before the red card even happened. There was, a couple little lapses. I think that moment that Eddie turned over the ball in the second half, probably something that should be avoided, and potentially a different team kind of capitalizes on that. But I think when your team has lost 6 of 7, and you were looking for some confidence going into the most, one of the most important games in club's history coming up on Wednesday. Is there anything that you would have liked to see more from this squad coming forward that you do want to see on Wednesday?
To me, it's a couple of things. Honestly, it's having the ability to play the final pass or a decisive pass from midfield, and that's where Gaston Brugman comes into me to the equation. I don't think either Patrick Yazbek or Eddie Taxath is able to do that from deeper positions. Actually, I think even maybe a Palacios or Zimmerman is more capable of doing that than those two. And this is not a dig on them. That's just not their game and not how they play their game. So I think a deep sort of pass from deeper positions would be something that I would like to see more of. Over the top balls is not something that Nashville SC has been able to really lock in the last 10 games or so. So that would be something. Then the other thing is just, I mean, we say it every every episode. Wingers. I don't understand what's happening necessarily with Jacob Schaffelberg, who has one good game and one bad game and kind of seems to rotate. He is part of that cycle of like comes in as a sub, plays really good as a sub, starts a game, doesn't do very well, becomes a sub again, comes in as a sub, and then so on and so forth. And then for Alex Muyl, I know he's not the most technical guy or the best, like the most clean on the ball, but I thought it was a step down from where he usually is against Houston. He did have that assist to Hani, so shout out to him. But I did think it was is lowered in his own standards than usual on the ball, and I think he had a lot of mishit passes and situations.
One thing that has been the same on this show and in the past at Fleet Street has been Valera trying to figure out a winger. Now, that's a very niche joke, but I do wish that. Well, it's too. This is where the fan part of me is that's not being logical is. Part of me was kind of happy that none of the wingers had a standout game because that means that in theory one of them is due for a standout game.
Well, I was wondering if that's when Blair was talking about the match on, match off situation. Look, if we can have a match off and we get a win still, does that mean we get a match on Wednesday? Does Jacob Schaffelberg score a hat trick on Wednesday? There's a possibility that happens.
Yeah, I do think this was kind of a frustrating game with Schaffelberg because there were a few passes that I don't think it was necessarily a bad game, but I do think in terms of the way that he's played, this was one of the lesser ones in recent memory because he had opportunities to break open the game that didn't happen, but I don't necessarily think it was a bad game. And we don't need to harp on wingers. We talked about wingers all year, but I do wish that we would have seen someone else score. Because this year it's been Hani, Sam. There's been a few goals from Nahar, but it would have been nice to see someone find the score sheet. And that is something that we've all been waiting on. And maybe it'll happen Wednesday. That would be great.
Really hoping it happens Wednesday. We're going to talk about the Open Cup next. I do just want to kind of just put a re-up on where Nashville is in terms of just the MLS standings themselves. Currently sitting in 6th place, tied with Charlotte for 5th place, which what a game for them to lose their winning streak, by the way, at home to Montreal. See, this league is just ridiculous. Anything can happen. They are now so fully clinched for the playoffs after the Red Bulls losing, which I don't know if any of you had seen any of the videos of Sports Illustrated Stadium after the Red Bulls rivalry match with NYCFC. That did not go over well with the fans.
The longest playoff streak in U.S. sports, wasn't it, for the Red Bulls?
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, it's done now.
Yeah, and now it's not happening.
It's not yet, but it will be done.
And so, Valère, just for my recollection, this is just Nashville's in the playoffs. It's not like playoff game included, right? We still could get to that point of being in the playoff game, like the play-in game. But no matter what, Nashville is in the postseason for MLS in 2025.
Yes,
Okay.
yes. Nashville is in. I would say this top four is looking pretty unlikely at the moment. It would require a win out from Nashville SC, which is Montreal and Inter Miami are the only two games left. And some pretty bad results for the top three, for the third and fourth teams. I think Cincinnati and Philadelphia, they can't reach them unless Miami has a collapse of some sort. They can't reach them. NYCFC is possible, and those are the top four at the moment. So I would say it's probably between 5 and 8. Definitely want to avoid the 8th position because that means an extra game. But with the way Columbus are playing at the moment, it seems like they are really fighting for that 8th spot, losing to Chicago, which, no self-respecting team should lose to Chicago.
Well, just worth remembering that the distance from Nashville to 8th is the same as the distance from Nashville to 3rd. Just an unbelievably tight race in the MLS Eastern Conference.
Yeah, it is crazy. And then, Nashville would be in 3rd place right now, or tied for 4th right now, in 53 points if they were in the West, which is, the East is just crazy itself. Sam Surge is at now 3rd place though for the Golden Boot, 2 behind Lionel Messi and then 1 behind Denny Bouanga. Of course, didn't think Denny Bouanga would be that high up. But thanks to Valera's favorite player's son, Denny Bouanga is kind of having a revitalized time there at LAFC. But who cares? None of that matters anymore. We have 2-3 days that we are fully focused on the Open Cup. Yes, Clay, as I do my dramatic introduction and segue into our next segment, you decide to flag me down, but please.
Just because I feel like it's worth noting that Surge is now alone for the highest scoring individual season in Nashville SC history. I just think it's worth noting. We didn't mention it, so I just feel like it's worth noting.
That is fair. It is worth noting, and he has the chance to score more on Wednesday at the Open Cup final. Of course, we're going to talk about that at length here next on Pharmaceutical Soccer. And we are back right here on Pharmaceutical Soccer at PharmaSoccer, of course, on our Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. Also, make sure you are checking out 615soccer.com. Spell it out. There has been so many of you that are traveling with us to Austin, being a part of the journey and just the conversation. It's been really cool. Even just the 615 Soccer family is one of the ones that are putting together the little get together on Tuesday night for all of us. Like, honestly, it has been so awesome just to see the response from people. Being a part of this family, being a part of this thing that we're joining. I know the 3 of us are extremely excited to be a part of it. I'm sure we're going to do some fun stuff with people while we are down there, as of course record, we're going to try to record on Thursday, I believe, to do a post episode reaction, depending on if I make it or not. That's going to be depending on if Nashville wins or not. It should be a good time, but please, 615soccer.com. Please check it out. Would love you to be a part of it. Of course, if you want to wear your Pharma Soccer merch to Austin, I hope you already bought it, because it would not get there in 2 days. But pharmasoccer.com, if you are interested in having that merchandise for after you get back from Austin, check out pharmasoccer.com.
Can I just say that, this past game against Houston was absolutely the most people that have ever come up to me to reference the show or anything. And I think it's because of the excitement of going to Austin. I think so many people are just so excited for the game, but it was wild. I mean, double digits. It was crazy. So thanks to everyone who's listening. I wish I had all of your names, so I don't want to leave anybody out, but it was wild. And so very much appreciate it. It was very cool.
Talk to me on Wednesday. I will remember all of your names on Wednesday. Don't talk to Clay. Talk
No
to
way.
me.
Stephen will be, if Nashville wins, Stephen will barely remember being at the game.
I will not remember that.
You don't even have to give a qualifier. I don't think Steven's gonna remember y'all's names. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I think if ands are buts, A, it's not going to happen. But B, if Nashville does win, I will be reaching out to one of the names I do remember if I could sleep on their floor in a hotel room, because I do not know if I'm making it back to where we're staying on Wednesday night at all.
I will say really quickly, Tuesday night. Just want to reiterate, we do have a little get together in Austin Tuesday night. It doesn't require any tickets or membership or anything. Just come hang out with us. It's a bar and a restaurant, so there's food, there are drinks. There should be some Austin fans in there. Please, no fighting, but they're all friendly.
Not like that one Austin game in
No,
Nashville.
not like
Yeah.
that one. But that was one specific group of people. Most 99% of Austin fans are extremely lovely, fantastic folks.
Yeah, I know.
Those 1%
Yeah,
decided to buy their supporter section ticket just to fight people. I hope you do not show up.
And there are also going to be a lot of Nashville fans, I should say. So it's a good get together Tuesday night. I'll be going there straight from the airport as I land in Austin. So just wanted to give that another run.
Absolutely. But hey, Open Cup final is here. Something that we have talked about this entire season, just even the beginning of the show, wanting, the Open Cup to be a priority. It's been an absolute journey for Nashville. A couple, decisive wins. I don't know how you want to go about talking about the Open Cup final for Nashville. Do we kind of want to give a rundown of where we've been and where we're at? I'll let Clay kind of take the run of where he wants to start with this.
Well, I would like to start with shouting out our people who have left comments on Spotify, as that was on the rundown. So first off a quick shout out to our boy Logstick, who clarified his name on our Discord, when you can read that clarification on Discord. And we've kind of already talked about this thing, but I just wanted to make sure that we mentioned he gave a thumbs down to Sun, which is something we appreciate on this show.
But Valera doesn't appreciate it.
Then Austin Luttrell kind of repeated. He said, I don't think it's necessarily fair or accurate to count our late season issues last year as contributing towards a trend. There was so much turbulence and uncertainty with playing under three coaches and a philosophy changes in organization. I think we all kind of agreed with that. It was just, something that you could think of before that Houston game.
Yeah.
And so now that the Houston game has happened, also we have no new reviews this week on Apple Podcasts, but please leave a review. Especially if you want to pose as Steven or Valere, but not me. We will have them read your review on here.
And it has to be a 5-star review for us to read it.
Absolutely. If it's a 4-star review, we do not care about you.
It's true. Why would you leave a 4-star review? That's just not fun. I will say to Austin's...
This is like Uber or Lyft. There's only 0 stars and 5 stars,
I will say to Austin's point, I would probably be the one that was like the most kind of scared when it comes to a continuing trend. It's one of those things where there's still the fan in me that sees certain situations happen, so they live in my memory. And I think last year's playoff performance doesn't live in a lot of people's, but it does, like playoff opportunity doesn't live in a lot of people's mind, but it does mine, just because that sucks really bad. So I'm hoping it's not the case. I think next year, you're right. If it does happen, there is a lot of concern, but yeah, this year there is absolutely an Open Cup to play for. This would be Nashville's first, major trophy, definitely for Nashville soccer. But just, I don't know. I think for the city of Nashville, this trophy is going to mean a lot to people. I know how much it means probably to the three of us, which is why we are going to be down there. We've only been to a certain amount of away matches so far, but even during a weekday in Austin, Texas, we found a way for the three of us to be there no matter what. We were not missing it.
And I don't have the numbers yet or any official numbers, but I have it on good authority that there will be a good amount of Nashville fans there traveling again midweek, like Steven was saying. People are having to take time off work, spend a lot of money. It is not cheap to get to Austin. It is not a close trip. It's not something you can hop in your car and go and come back within the same day or two. It is a commitment to go see this team away from home, especially in a game in Austin. It also, the ticket in itself is not cheap compared to tickets what would cost to go see Nashville in Nashville. So I think shout out to all the fans who are able to go. I think that's a really really a great show for what this market has become in terms of soccer. But also, there's going to be a watch party at Geodis Park, and I heard that's going to be a big one as well, like a pretty big showing there as well. So then, you're looking at and then all the supporters groups, I believe, all have watch parties going on as well throughout the city. So it's a big event. It's a really big one, and I think it's these things, these sort of events, these sort of level of play is what makes this team seem more. I don't know. Real is not a good word, but seems like this team is more sort of entrenched into what Nashville is. The Preds weren't the Preds the way they were after the 2017 run in the playoffs. And not saying that they didn't have fans before or anything, but it was a different feeling after that run. And then winning the President Trophy, also different feeling. And that's something that I think with the Leagues Cup Nashville had, and maybe kind of fell out a little bit afterwards, but now they're back to this level again, and it's really good to see soccer in this market thriving.
I mean, it is pretty cool to think about the fact that, like, when we started the show, 2019, we're now sitting here in 2025 knowing that a significant portion of Nashville fans will be listening to this right now as you hear me on your podcast or whatever, on a flight to Austin for a U.S. Open Cup final. Because I'm sure that there will be several of you that are listening to this right now on a flight to Austin, which is kind of a cool thing to think about. So with that said, let's actually talk about the game. We'd mentioned the Spotify comments, we'd mentioned the reviews. Obviously, we do have a Discord. And so we had a few questions that were asked last week that we put off because we want to talk about the Open Cup. And so we're going to start with the mailbag. Obviously, if you join at the capo level, you can participate in our Discord, and you can leave questions for us in the mailbag that we will answer on this show. And so the first one does come from Titan Bronco, who asks what I think is probably one of the more interesting questions going into this game, especially considering that he came on towards the end of the game the other night, and that is, should Zimmerman start on the bench in the U.S. Open Cup final?
That's a no for me. I think you start Walker Zimmerman anytime you have a healthy Walker Zimmerman, and considering he ended up playing, yeah, I think I would feel different if this was at the back of the 10 games or so that Palacios and Mayer started next to each other. I think I would probably say keep them together. But since Walker been in and out of the team, and every time he's in the team, mostly every time he's in the team, he's performed really well. I don't know if you guys disagree, but I would start Walker Zimmerman in a heartbeat.
There's a reason that he played the end of that match, for sure. There is a potential that this is Walker's last year in a Nashville jersey. We don't have any updates on what's going to happen. He was there from the beginning when it comes to Nashville. There's no way that that Walker Zimmerman does not start this game. There just isn't. Go ahead, Clay.
Oh, no, I was just going to say, I think BJ showed his hand on who he's expecting to play a little bit with the way that match played out. I think Zimmerman coming on is a clear indicator that Zimmerman is going to be starting the next game. I also think that it's worth talking about, just tactically speaking. We know that Austin is going to play with a low block, which we know will put an emphasis on scoring from set pieces and scoring and taking the most advantage that you can make of your best chances. Nashville hasn't been as good on set pieces as they have been in years past, but Walker Zimmerman is arguably, over the last 5 years, the best player in the air in the entire league. And considering that Nashville has a proclivity to not just score from set pieces over the years, but to score from long throw-ins and things like that, that's where Walker becomes much more valuable than the other two central defenders who aren't bad in the air. Like Palacios has a couple goals this year. Like they're not bad in the air, but like Walker Zimmerman is elite when it comes to things like that. And if you're playing against a team where you may not get too many high quality chances, having a Walker Zimmerman out there makes those chances a lot better.
Who would y'all put next to him?
That was going to be my exact question. I wanted to ask you two that because
Answer it.
I don't know if I have an answer.
Answer it.
For me, go ahead, Steven. I know who I would. But
I think Jack Mayer. I think for me that you put the specific consistent grouping that you've had. It's the same thing for this time in time. It's been Jack and Walker back there in defense. You keep that going for your final. I think it's got to be Walker and Jack. And that is nothing against Palacios at all. He's been absolutely phenomenal this year. I think actually in a lot of certain circumstances, Palacios has been the best center back for Nashville SC this season. But I think you start with Walker and Jack.
I think I fall in the same boat there. I do think that Palacios has having the best season, but I do worry a little bit about if you're definitely starting Walker. I do worry that both of those guys are guys that do like to leave themselves exposed a little bit. And where I'll give Palacios a lot of credit is that he's usually able to get back because he's so quick. But I still think, when Mayer has played well, he's been hard to take out of the starting lineup. And I don't think he's done anything particularly wrong. And I don't think Palacios has either. But I think Nashville's in good shape with any of the three starting. But if it were me, I kind of lean towards Mayer and Walker, but I don't really have a problem if Palacios is out there either.
I do agree with whichever two I think BJ Callahan goes with. I think the confidence level in terms of the defense doesn't really change a whole lot,
Right.
if at all. And that is a really, really good problem for Nashville to have. I will disagree with both of you. Personally, I would lean towards Palacios and Walker. I think that is a very forward-looking lineup or center back pairing. I think Palacios on the ball and recovery speed really tends to be needed when a team sits back a little bit. Recovery speed, obviously, because Austin will counter. And on the ball, I think he's a cleaner passer than both Walker and Jack Mayer. And I think that's why I would go with Palacios. But if I look at that team sheet and it's Walker and Jack, I don't think I'll even, feel any different than otherwise.
There's another team sheet consideration to have, and that's a question that actually comes from Abigail Kristen through our mailbag. Should Schwacke start in goal again for the Open Cup final?
If this is the world according to me, and I don't have to meet with these players and talk to them every day and see them at the training ground and at work, no, I would put my best goalie if it was me. And I think the best goalie for Nashville SC is Joe Willis. Will Joe Willis start? I don't think so. I think BJ Callahan has stuck with Schwacke, and if he was to play him at a semifinal against Philadelphia Union, the most likely Supporters Shield winner, Philadelphia Union, I think he's going to play him in the final as well. Whether or not we've seen coaches do that throughout soccer history. There's a cup keeper and there's a league keeper all the time. Schwacke has played every minute of Open Cup this year, and I don't see why he wouldn't play the final based on what BJ Callahan has been telling us from his team selection.
And I kind of lean the same way. I'm very much you put your strongest team out there when there's a trophy on the line, but BJ Callahan's also a goalkeeping guy, and so I'm not too worried about Schwacke being prepared. I also understand that Schwacke's probably been preparing for this game for 2 weeks now. Like this has been probably a singular focus, I would imagine. On the basis of the culture of the sport, Schwacke should be in goal because that's kind of the way it works with a cup goalkeeper. But I will tell you this, I think that comfortability around the back line in front of him, that might be a concern Just considering that, we're talking about bringing in Walker Zimmerman after not playing for a little bit. It is a worthy thing to consider, whether you go with individual comfort as far as who's played the most with each other. But I think it'll probably be Schwaki.
Yeah, it's funny because I think you normally go with the hot hand in these situations, but I don't think Joe Willis has been like not a hot hand whatsoever in this situation. Heck, Houston could have scored multiple goals again. Like if it wasn't for the way that Joe Willis was playing, one incredible save, specifically. I do think, BJ has stated that Schwaki is his Open Cup goalkeeper, and I think that stays throughout the entire time, and I think that's going to happen on Wednesday because Joe Willis still has a lot of MLS to go as Nashville has just clinched a playoff spot. So I think you give Schwaki that ability to wrap it up, get Nashville its first trophy, and then let Joe Willis kind of finish the rest of the way into the MLS season. Speaking of the trophy itself, Thomas P615 asks, aside from the literal trophy, what's on the line for the team and players when it comes to winning the Open Cup? I think there's multiple ways you can go with this, and this is probably going to be something that takes the longest to talk about. There's multiple ways you can go with this.
I mean, the most basic thing is a fairly meager amount of money. Like in comparison to other trophies that the team could win, there is money on the line, so the winner will get more money than the loser. In the grand scheme of things, especially considering where MLS salaries are now, it is not like an unbelievable amount of money for these players. So a lot of it does rest on reputation, and for that reason, I think the person that's most on the line is someone like a Hani Mukhtar, who has had, one of the best, and this is not hyperbole. I mean, it's what the stats say. Hani Mukhtar is one of the most productive players that has ever played in Major League Soccer over the span of their careers. And if you would look at what Hani Mukhtar has done and say someone who's kind of etched into that lore and like a Sebastian Giovinco, the difference between the two of them is Sebastian Giovinco has trophies and Hani doesn't really have any. And I hate I'm an Everton fan, so the idea of trophy culture is just kind of annoying to me because like you can have a great career and things not work out for you. And I think for what Nashville needs, like as a city, in need of a sports, star who has won something. Like there's a whole lot of legacy on the line for Hani Mukhtar. Not that this is the only chance, but like if to lose as close as they did in the Leagues Cup final, if they make it to another final and then lose, and you're now on the other side of your 30s or getting into your 30s rather, and you haven't won anything, that's going to be the way people remember you, even if you've had one of the most productive careers in the history of the league.
Valeria, you had decided to mute your microphone. I'm not sure.
Yeah, I was drinking some water and muted it. Anyway, this is unnecessary information. But it's interesting that you said that about Mukhtar because I remember this might have been 2 years ago before Hani signed his new deal with Nashville SC, and I was talking to somebody who, let's just say, has some visibility into those discussions, and that was a point that was brought up, from one of the sides at least, in terms of, well, you if you want to be a designated player, that's one thing. If you want to be a designated player getting paid X amount, like other designated players, you're gonna have to deliver in trophies, and obviously that's a team thing. It's not just Hani Mukhtar by himself, but I think that is something that is said often about players because it's kind of like a nice like tangible thing you can literally point to and say, here's what he delivered to the team, right? And here's what he helped the team get. And then overall, I would say, just away from individual players, this trophy would mean for both of these sides, by the way, if because Austin is a new team as well. This trophy would mean that there is a sort of reputation and some psychological thing about winning that really makes a difference in how people view the club, but also how the players themselves view the club, and how other players who aren't in Nashville, who could potentially be Nashville players, view the club. And that's something that you can't really put a value on. That's not something like the money prize or the bonuses or whatever. That is something that, when you go negotiate with a new player, you can say, well, this team not only made the playoffs and won X amount of games, this team also won the cup competition. Look at Crystal Palace in England. They won the FA Cup. And that has been an incredible thing. Look at Newcastle in England, who hadn't won a cup in 30, 40 years or whatever it may be, and won the Leagues Cup. Yes, those trophies aren't necessarily the biggest glamorous trophies in Europe, but they meant so much to that fan base and they meant so much to the club. And that's really I think that's the biggest thing on the line, is the reputation of Nashville SC and the reputation of the players themselves, and what that means for them when they are negotiating another contract, or when they are just talking about their careers in whole.
Yeah, that was going to be one of my points. Valer, you've brought it up. We have 14 players that are currently that are going to be out of contract at the end of the year. This was one of those things where this was supposed to be a rebuild season. How do you how do you clarify to your contract negotiation and all of that it's not a rebuild by winning a trophy? Like, that is one of the things that you do. It makes it a lot different to go to the negotiating table and, have those conversations about, hey, like, let's bring back some of these players just because of the fact that they won us a trophy. So I think it'll be very interesting from the players in that perspective. I think, go ahead, Flair.
I just have one last thing to say before we move on. There is also a tangible spot in the Champions Cup. We should say that you will
Can you
get
guys stop
by
taking my
winning this.
points and let me finish? Like, I was literally just about to say that. I bring
Oh, I
value.
thought you were moving on.
No.
Because you kind of had like a cut in your. Okay, you say it. You say it now. So people remember. Two people say.
Thank you very much. Nashville does have the ability to be an international competition. If they do win the cup, they do qualify for the CONCACAF Champions Cup, which also gives the ability, if they win it, to be a part of the Club World Cup, which is also always a fun time. So, yeah.
Can you also say that there's a possibility that Nashville qualifies for the Champions Cup through the playoffs and or the standings based on how high they finish? And they don't have to win MLS Cup, but also that's another way to qualify to the Champions Cup. Can you say that?
Nashville doesn't have to win MLS Cup to qualify for the Champions Cup as well. They can do it through the playoffs, even though it's highly unlikely that they do it in the regular season with the points they have. They do have the ability to.
It's not highly unlikely because there's like 12 MLS teams that make it now. So, but yeah, it's not as confirmed as an Open Cup. Thanks for doing that, Steven. Do you want me to read the last question, or do you want to do that?
No, you can do that
Which
one.
is it? Oh, okay, I can do that one. Okay. Look at that. We actually split that pretty evenly.
I think
Like
so
Clay
too.
got a
Yeah,
question, Steven got
absolutely.
one. Yeah, we didn't even plan that. This is from.
In reality, this is a podcast about making a podcast.
Right. This is from. How do you pronounce it? SGIL
S-Gill Music, I would assume.
Music, yes. So shout out to you for asking the question. And they asked, since we have less subs for U.S. Open Cup, what are your active roster predictions for the final on Wednesday? Clay, you want to start with that one?
I think that I'm not expecting any major surprises. I think that we're going to see a starting lineup fairly similar to what we saw this past weekend, except the only difference would be Walker Zimmerman being in the lineup. I think that there's a chance that we'll see Brugman start instead of Tag Seth. And then from the bench, I'm not expecting any surprises there. I think it'll be the people who have played the most this season. I mean, it is a limited bench, of course, but Nashville's not always gone particularly deep in that bench either. So I don't expect any real surprises.
I'm leaning. I feel like Brugman will get the start over Eddie, but I don't know. I think it's a hard decision for BJ Callahan to do. Steven, do you and Clay, I guess too, but like, do you guys think Schaffelberg is with the injury to Johnny Perez and possibly Ahmed Qasim also missing out? Do you think Schaffelberg is like written in pen essentially for this?
Yep,
game?
I think so. I mean, honestly, I disagree with you guys. I think it's a cut and paste from Philadelphia. Like, I think you cut and paste specifically what happened in that Open Cup game, and that includes Eddie Tagsteth, starting as well. But yeah, I think you have to start Jacob Schaffelberg. I don't think there's any ifs, ands, or buts about it.
The one consistent thing I think from what we've seen from the wingers this year is that if Jacob Schaffelberg is playing well or even close to it, he is the A1 choice for being on the field. I think some people have been pulled for having okay games just to give another guy a shot. I think Schaffelberg, if everyone's healthy and everyone's playing their best, Schaffelberg gets the nod. I think that's the one thing that we could say that we've seen, because everyone's had 3 or 4 chances at this point to kind of claim that spot, injuries, aside. So I would be very surprised if he doesn't go with Schaffelberg. And, Schaffelberg has somewhat of a history of doing well in big games, even if it's not getting the goal. Like, he's been very, the one thing that I just always remember is going down to Miami in the Champions Cup, and he just kind of pops up and gets 2 goals.
I think,
and he had such a good run during Leagues Cup a few years ago that I do think, like, you kind of have to go with him.
I think there would be one thing that is kind of a shock that you do throw into the mix right there, and I honestly would be kind of here for it, is if Tyler Boyd gets the start. I don't think that is going to happen, but what if his recovery and all of that stuff was him getting ready to start the Open Cup? Like, what if we are not thinking ahead of time when it comes to Tyler Boyd's recovery enough? And like BJ Callahan is like 10 steps ahead of us, being like, yep, we're going to be here. This is Tyler Boyd's time to start.
This is a Valère answer. What if, because we've been waiting all year, what if Wednesday is finally the Alex Muyl game? What if Wednesday is the Alex Muyl game?
How you also get unhinged Valère, not just Fleet Street, but if Alex Muyl scores 2 winning goals for Nashville SC in the Open Cup final, that's also
saying, it's not unlikely.
If you see the one dude unlikely chanting in the press box, well, it's Valère.
I think he would etch his name into the history of this state in general if he was to go off in the final. I do want to say you do get 7 spots on the bench, so it's slightly smaller than MLS. One of those will be keeper, most likely Joe Willis, I would say, and then you'll have 6 others. If you think of Josh Bauer probably getting in, one of the center mids will be there. Tyler Boyd will be there. Till Bunbury will be there. And then one of the wingers, if Ahmed Qasim can recover. And then, I wouldn't be surprised to see a Chris Applewhite or a Carlton to kind of round up that bench. Ethan O'Brien was on the bench, also another Huntsville product, was on the bench for the MLS game against Houston. He might be there as well. This all comes because Matthew Cochran is with the U20 national team in the World Cup, so he will not be available for selection, even off the bench. So you might see some newer names on the bench simply because of the injuries to other players. But hey, we don't know what the exact status of those injuries are. So Ahmed Qasim, I don't see Johnny Perez coming back, to be honest. His looked a little bit worse. But Ahmed Qasim, last update we got is day today, and I wouldn't be surprised if he's on the bench.
Valère, objectivity aside, if an Iraqi dude is the person to bring Nashville its first trophy, how are you responding inside, since you refuse to do so as a journalist? How is that response going to be?
Regardless, I want a one-on-one with him just to see. Like, I just don't know. Like, he labels himself as Swedish. He's very he's born there. His parents are from 2 different countries. Like, I don't know. It's not as clear cut. People can be from a lot of different places. I'll be very happy for him. Also, just a guy named Ahmed Qasim scoring and winning a trophy for Nashville is hilarious to me on a personal level. So I'm all for it personally, and that's why
what a reporter answer to a personal question.
Absolutely. Look, we talked a lot about Nashville, how they're going to line up, kind of how they're expected to line up. So I don't think we need to dive too far into that. What can we expect, from this Austin team? They've kind of had an interesting year so far, especially in MLS. They lost on Saturday to RSL in a pretty bad fashion. We talk about confidence and all that type of stuff going into Open Cup, matches. They didn't really get it. But what should we expect from Austin, in this match?
So have you guys ever heard of 615soccer.com?
I talked about it
Because
earlier.
if you
Yes.
have, because if you have, there's actually a really good story from Jeff Remlinger that posted this morning that I think is worth looking into, where he takes a look at the shortcomings of Austin, but also how Austin could be effective against Nashville. And so I think it's really worth looking into. And I wanted to shout it out, but I think we're going to see something that Nashville has seen several times before, which is a team that's in a low block that may cause Nashville some issues. And I think it's going to be really worrisome. There are some things about Austin that make it particularly worrisome. They have a goalkeeper that's on a heater, which Nashville, as a team that has struggled to put away chances in some games this year, that is a worrisome. And they have a guy who can, score on a counterattack, if they get a good ball through the middle, over the top, whatever it may be, which is kind of what they did against Minnesota in the semifinal. Like, there are some worrisome signs there, but I do think, like, regardless, they aren't going to present anything to Nashville that Nashville hasn't seen before. And I think that you have to still like Nashville's chances, especially if they were to get an early goal.
Yeah, I think no matter what, too, especially with a cup final, sometimes some of those statistics and stuff are just kind of thrown out the window. Minnesota was the most likely team to win that draw, especially at home, going into PKs. Then Austin scores an 120th minute goal to, get through at the end. It'll be very interesting to see. I'm excited to be there with the both of you to share in this moment. I don't know what to expect. I think it'll be a little bit more emotional when we're all three of us are there as well, to kind of be there. But let's just kind of wrap this up. Plugs and predictions for Nashville in the Open Cup final.
Go to kickinit615, ki615.org, at kickinit615 on social media to sign up for the foot golf tournament. It's a fundraiser where you get to play foot golf and your money goes towards helping soccer be more accessible for kids in Nashville. Again, that's ki615.org and at kickinit615. And it's a lot of fun, and I'll be there. I've been avoiding the prediction. I've been asked by multiple people, actually, from like Thursday on, what my prediction would be for this game. All right, I'm gonna go ahead and say 2-0 Nashville, actually.
Whoa.
Yeah, I think there's a better team, and Steven is very much right. It's which is rare, to be honest. It is it's it's a one-off game. Anything can happen, but to me, Nashville is just a much better team than Austin has been, and I think the quality is going to show at the end. Look, who knows what's going to happen, but if you're asking me right now, 2-0 Nashville. I think Sam Sturridge gets one, and I think Alex Muriel gets the other because Clay put it in my
Planted it
head,
in his
and
head.
yeah,
Planted it
yeah,
in his head.
it's in there now. So yeah, that's gonna be it. I think it's not gonna be an easy game necessarily, but I think Nashville comes out with a trophy at the end of it.
Clay.
So as for me, you can follow me at Clay Lassol on Instagram and Twitter. And you can check out Nashville Soccer Archive, a very important game coming up this weekend in Nashville. So maybe something there might be picked up for the physical archive, which is at Vanderbilt University. If you'd like to donate to the physical archive, anything that you think might be interesting for Nashville soccer history, please reach out to me. I promise you it will get used. Now, as for the game, I don't think the game is going to quite play out on the field the way it did this past weekend, but I wouldn't be surprised for a similar scoreline. I'm going to go 3-1 Nashville. I think it'll be a tighter game than that suggests, but I do think Nashville is going to be in a situation where they get a goal, maybe they give up something cheap because they've been known to do that this year, and they kind of get things right, and it's probably sitting at 2-1 entering the dying stages of the game. And then Alex Moyle has his Fafa Pico moment, and we get to see Nashville score to go up 3-1 to secure the win, and then we're all going to just sit around and watch Steven cry. That is, Steven's crying regardless on Wednesday.
I will.
So let's hope they're happy tears.
There is a definite potential. If there is an over/under yes and no bet of me crying, it probably will be happening for sure. At PH Steven HD on all of my socials as well. Please reach out to the three of us too if you are making the trip to Austin. Would love to say hi to you. I'll be in that supporter section with everybody for sure. There's no way I would miss being there.
Blair will be working. Steven and I are, though.
Yeah,
we're
absolutely.
Going to be in the supporter section.
We'll be working with the actual supporters while this show started, unlike Valer. But I think this will be probably one of the most hostile and loudest fan bases that Nashville in its history will ever be going against so far. When it comes to Austin being at home, first chance for them to win a trophy. And I think Nashville will draw. I think Nashville will draw out of that early. I think we'll get a goal maybe in the 40th or 45th to make it 1-0. I think we sub off Sam Surridge in the 75th or 80th minute. And unfortunately, Austin does come back and get a goal. But even before the chance for extra time, our Lord, our Savior in Teal Bunbury is going to win us the match. A 2-1 win. I think a goal in the 89th minute for Teal Bunbury is going to set us over the edge. And I don't know what I would do if that would have happened. But
Steven, if Teal Bunbury scores in the final, you have to buy his jersey.
Oh, absolutely.
Deal?
Done. Absolutely.
Okay.
For all 4 years of Nashville jersey, I will find a way to get each one of them to say Teal Bunbury on it since he was on their team. Absolutely. That's in stone.
He loves a 12 jersey.
I'll find a USL jersey and get that one with Teal Bunbury on it as well.
I do love the idea of Teal getting on the score sheet. I've said it on here before. I've said it in the stands so many times. He does so much dirty work at the end of games that it would just be awesome because he hasn't scored yet this season. It would just be awesome to see something happen. I'm surprised that Steven hasn't set in stone the one prediction that is actually going out on a limb that he might actually get, which is someone scoring the free kick for Nashville in this game, which he does still have in the prop bets active. So I would assume that's that first goal that he's talking about will be off a free kick.
Look, this has given me the ability to have just multiple fires going on, multiple pots that I get to be around. Guys, thank you so much for listening to the show. We really appreciate it. Hope you're listening to this on the flight to Austin. I know, as I just checked, the flight to Austin is 2 hours and 20 minutes, so you'll have more than enough time to listen to this episode on the flight.
Listen to it twice.
Heck, the three of us, again, will be there, so please make sure you reach out to us. We'd love to see you, and talk to you about the show. I'll be the inebriated one of the three, for sure, so can't wait to be a part of that. Okay, whatever. Stop it.
3 hours, just an outro, bro. Okay, everybody, have a good night. Come out, hang out with us Tuesday, and we'll see you all Wednesday for the Open Cup final. Thank you.